Some of the most important Miami Hurricanes recruiting battles are really starting to heat up. We got some good news and some bad news.
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I am Alex Donno, University of Miami alumnus, longtime South Florida sports radio vet, and contributor to allhurricanes.com. And thank you so much to the everydayers for making Locked On Canes your first listen each and every day. So in recruiting, the dead period is over. Miami has their big Cookout recruiting event coming up this weekend. You'll notice a common theme here in a lot of the big fish that Miami is still after in the class of 2024, talking about the 5 stars and the 4 stars. Heated competitions with some of the big powerhouses in the SEC. Here's a battle that Miami appears to be on the losing side of, at least for now. Battle's not over. The war is not over. But when it comes to 4-star linebacker Chris Cole, Cole is now getting crystal balled to Georgia. 24/7 Sports UGA expert last night dropped the crystal ball Cole to UGA. On-3 prediction machine, Chris Cole now being predicted to Georgia. Now, my initial hope when I see this is hopefully this is mostly a knee-jerk reaction, like a domino piece falling into place because, 5-star linebacker DeMarcus Riddick, who was committed to Georgia, just flipped to Auburn. So maybe they're thinking, well, if Riddick is out, Cole is going to be in. Like it's an assumption, but I don't know. I think there's probably more to it than that because the recruiting sources that I spoke to this morning, they do think that the links Cole to Georgia are pretty legitimate. Miami's going to have to keep fighting this battle, and you've got to hope Rohan Marley, who's the uncle of Chris Cole, who played linebacker at Miami, can, help aid in that fight a little bit to try to push his nephew a little bit more to Miami. Chris Cole, he's the nephew of Rohan. He's the grandson of Bob Marley, and he's also a darn good linebacker, 6'4", 210 pounds out of Salem, Virginia. Chris Cole is the 6th ranked linebacker in the entire class, but he is trending heavily to UGA right now. Miami's got Vincent Shavers and Cameron Pruitt committed. Now, Pruitt's being recruited, tempted by a certain other SEC powerhouse. We'll talk about that in a minute. But obviously, if Miami isn't able to land Chris Cole, you've got to go back to that drawing board a little bit. We'll see how that one plays out. Here's another important recruiting battle that we are watching, and it's another battle with the SEC. The SEC is coming at Miami from all angles on this one, and that's for 5-star defensive lineman Kamarion Franklin. So Franklin, right now, he's on a multi-day visit to Auburn. He arrived at Auburn yesterday for an overnight visit. I think that visit is ending today, Thursday. But my understanding is, and we've talked about this over the last couple of weeks, how Auburn is really making a push for Kamarion Franklin. They're putting a full court press on him. Now, he is expected to be at Miami this weekend for the Cookout, so hopefully Miami can throw a counterpunch at Hugh Freeze, but Auburn is pulling out all the stops right now for Kamarion Franklin. They want to land the 5-star defensive tackle in their class. Now, what Miami has working for them, besides the obvious stuff like, location, Jason Taylor, Miami's defensive line coach, Pro Football Hall of Famer, has really built a nice bond with Franklin. You remember Franklin came down on his own dime to Legends Camp a couple of months ago so he could work out with the Pro Football Hall of Famer. He's a 5-star defensive lineman, Franklin, 6'5", 265 plus pounds, tremendous upper body strength. And I watched him work out with JT back at Legends Camp, and Kamarion Franklin moves like a man half his size. He's very nimble for his size, but you definitely want to watch out for Auburn from this one. And, we don't have many of the exit reports and interviews at the time that I'm recording this. I don't know really any feedback on how that Auburn visit went for him, but I'm sure you're going to start to see the Auburn sites and news sources put out some of those exit interviews later on in the day as to how that interview and how that visit, I should say, went for Kamarion Franklin at Auburn. But that's definitely a team to watch out for there. Now, here's some good news, some really good news, I think. We can confirm it now. We talked about it yesterday on Locked On Canes as a strong possibility. We can confirm it today. Lawayne McCoy is going to be visiting Miami this weekend. He will be at the Cookout. 4-star athlete out of Miami Central, probably going to play wide receiver in college. He's committed to Florida State. He's a verbally committed Florida State guy, but Miami is looking at a possible flip from McCoy's Florida State commitment. On offense last season at Miami Central, he's a two-way player. That's why he's listed as an athlete. He caught 20 passes for 491 yards. That was a 24.6 yards per catch average, scored 3 touchdowns. On defense, he had 9 tackles, 5 pass breakups, and an interception. The interesting thing about Lawayne McCoy is a lot of the people who have scouted him really closely on both sides of the football actually think he's probably a little bit better of a defensive back than he is a wide receiver, but he's tremendous on both sides of the football. And, him as a wideout, he reminds me a little bit of JoJo Trader, who's committed, the 5-star who's committed to Miami's class, because both of them really gifted at making one-handed catches and making difficult catches look easy, tracking footballs well. Both have tremendous speed. So either way, like, some of you are going to watch this and say, Donno, I want Lawayne McCoy to play defense. He's a better defensive player. Others will say, well, we've needed playmaking wide receivers. Let this guy play wide out. You know what? You're both right. I'll let this young man, if he does flip to Miami, because he still is a Florida State verbal commitment, but if he does end up flipping to Miami, maybe sometime after his visit this weekend at the Cookout, I'm cool with Lawayne McCoy playing on either side of the ball or both. If he wants to be a special teams returner, this is a really, really talented 4-star athlete. I just want him in the program, but he does seem to favor offense. That's the side of the football he wants to play. All right, so got a couple of other notes on the other side. I mentioned there's a player who's verbally committed to Miami that a certain SEC power is trying to flip to their direction, and a 4-star tight end has set an in-season visit coming up with Miami. So we're getting to more of the good news here, folks. Alex Donno with you on Locked On Canes. You want to keep it locked. And folks, if you're a small business owner, you want to keep it locked to LinkedIn Jobs. Because these days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available, and that's why you want to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. I've been on the other side of it, folks. I have gotten job opportunities as an employee through LinkedIn Jobs, so I know it works for employers as well. You add your job and the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile and spread the word that you're hiring. Then simple tools like screening questions make it easier to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus their leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Thank you so much for making Locked On Canes your first listen today. And for the everydayers, man, we're in for a treat tomorrow. We are going to be linking up with one of my favorite Miami Hurricanes content creators, Coach Coop. Coach Coop is going to join us on tomorrow's episode. We're going to get his preview for the 2023 season coming up, his expectations, his thoughts on Miami's transfer players, Miami's new coaches. So just one of the nicest dudes in the Miami Hurricane space. You will not meet anyone nice, maybe aside from me, because I'm very nice as well. But me and Coach Coop, two of the nicest guys in the Miami Hurricane space. We're going to be linking up tomorrow. So that's going to be a good one right here on Locked On Canes. All right, so I mentioned there's a current Miami Hurricanes commit that is now wanted by an SEC powerhouse, and that is Theodore, Alabama native and 3-star linebacker safety Cameron Pruitt. He goes by Bobby, by the way. So if you've seen some of the Alabama headlines, we're going after Bobby Pruitt, and some of you are like, wait, Bobby Pruitt and Cameron Pruitt, are those two different people? His nickname is Bobby. So when you see like AL.com, they're talking about Alabama making an offer to Bobby Pruitt. That's Cameron Pruitt. They are the same person, okay? And yes, Cameron Pruitt, he's committed to Miami. He's verbally committed to Miami. Derek Nicholson, Miami's linebackers coach, his primary recruiter. but he just recently received a formal offer from Alabama, which means a committable offer, because I think he technically had an Alabama offer, but it wasn't a committable offer. Recruiting is confusing, I know, guys, because sometimes an offer isn't really an offer, but in this case, his offer is now an offer from Alabama. So they're trying to flip him from his Miami commitment. So Miami's going to need to keep fighting off the Crimson Tide to keep Cameron Pruitt, Bobby Pruitt, committed in their class. Now, for Pruitt, he did confirm, saw Gabby Urrutia at 24/7 Sports wrote this, that Pruitt did confirm he is going to be at Miami's Cookout this weekend. So that's a good sign that he's still coming down. He's still staying engaged. He's not starting to ghost Miami or anything like that. Because listen, obviously, when you're talking about a young man who grew up in Alabama, now getting a real committable offer from the Crimson Tide, you always have to worry, where is his heart really at? I don't know if this young man grew up a Bama fan or an Auburn fan, or maybe he didn't care about college football, but a player from that area, it's always hard to think, hey, Alabama's offered him, they've got a shot here. Now, I do think, and I said the same thing about Kevin Riley, right? Kevin Riley, Miami's running back commit, who's from Tuscaloosa County, Alabama. Alabama seems to be starting to recruit Riley a little bit harder than they were in the past. Same thing with Pruitt. I think both of these young men appreciate the fact that Miami made them a priority early on, whereas Alabama slow played both of these guys, put them on the back burner, didn't make them feel like priorities until recently, where Miami had them prioritized all along. That kind of stuff can go a long way, okay? So, obviously my radar goes up. A couple days ago, I think it was yesterday morning, when I saw Alabama has now made, an offer to Cameron Pruitt, Bobby Pruitt, but, it's very good news to me that he's coming down to the Cookout, and that worries me a little bit less. Hopefully he stays locked into the U. Now, here's a player who's got a visit locked into Miami, not for this weekend. Well, maybe he'll show up this weekend, but he's got a visit locked in now, an official visit during the season. 4-star tight end Tayvion Galloway is going to visit Miami this fall. I've taken a great liking to this player in recent weeks. He's going to attend Miami's home game against Texas A&M week 2. 6'5", 230-pound tight end out of Pickerington, Ohio, recently decommitted from LSU. But even before he verbally committed to LSU, this guy talked about Miami a lot. And the reason why he talks about Miami so much is the Hurricanes are his childhood team. Tayvion Galloway, even though he grew up in Ohio, he grew up watching Miami games on national TV with his dad. That was the team that he and his father loved and bonded over. And this is a really interesting tight end prospect. Highly rated, again, 4-star tight end, one of the best tight ends in the class if you go by the metrics. And I like the fact that he's got that basketball background, standout basketball player. So many of the great receiving tight ends have that basketball background. And I think Galloway, who's more of a pass-catching threat, I think he would complement Elijah Lofton really well. Now, Elijah Lofton, already another 4-star tight end out of Las Vegas, who's verbally committed to Miami. Now, Lofton is well-rounded. He can catch passes, too. He can play H-back, but he's a really good inline blocker, where Galloway is more of a pass catcher. So I think if you're able to land the two of these guys in this class, I think they would complement each other really, really well. With Lofton being the more skilled inline blocker, he can kind of pick up the slack where a guy like Tayvion Galloway may leave some of that. So Galloway is going to have his official visit early September, Miami versus Texas A&M. Hopefully Miami is able to show them a great time, okay? Or show him a great time. All right, so here's something. Something's happening today with David Stone, the 5-star defensive tackle. I don't think what's happening is what you think might be happening, okay? So David Stone, 5-star defensive tackle out of IMG Academy, he tweeted out last night that he's got an announcement coming today, Thursday. So he's going to say something today, but calm your jets a little bit here. I don't think it's going to be his actual verbal commitment anywhere. Now, he's not trending to Miami, just so you know. He's been trending strongly to Oklahoma. But whatever it is that David Stone is going to be announcing today, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think it's going to be an actual verbal commitment, because I spoke to a couple of recruiting sources this morning, and also based on some of the interviews that Stoney has done in recent days, it sounds like he's not going to actually make a verbal commitment until the fall. So whatever he's got coming up later today, it might be maybe his announcement date that he's locking in for the future. Maybe it's some kind of like a trimmed down finalist list, but whatever announcement he's going to make, I don't think it's going to be his actual verbal commitment. But at the same time, as a Miami guy, I'm not, over the moon for David Stone, right? I mean, I love him as a player. I'm just not that optimistic because I think he's going to be in Oklahoma sooner unless something changes. So we shall see what goes on there. Miami has offered someone who's committed to Harvard. Miami's trying to flip players from Harvard now. He's trying to bring that team GPA up, I guess. But this is a fine player. We'll talk about it when we come back. Plus, an important show note, right? Because we already mentioned Coach Coop is going to join us on tomorrow's episode. Monday on Locked On Canes. Monday is going to be lit. We'll talk about that when we come back. Keep it locked right here to Locked On Canes. Thank you so much for making Locked On Canes your first listen today. And for the everydayers, if you want to take your everydayer experience to the next level, I highly suggest signing up to our exclusive SMS texting service through Subtext. I include a link in the show description below. Click the link and sign up. Guys, you get text messages directly to your phone from mine. I don't have a social media intern. I write all the texts myself. We give you guys show previews before anyone else gets them, including sometimes screenshots from my actual show notes. I give you guys recruiting scoops, breaking news updates, access to practices that I'm out at, all that good stuff. Completely free for the first 14 days. If you want to try it free for 14 days, you can sign up with nothing to lose. And then if you want to opt in, it's $4.99 a month, but we give you a lot of added value on there. So try it out, our exclusive SMS texting service through Subtext, and take your everydayer experience to the next level. So recruiting centers has been interesting for Miami. Now, they did get Antonio Tripp, who is an interior offensive lineman who could potentially play center, even if that's not necessarily his specialty. But you remember Miami last year, they had a verbal commitment until he flipped to Auburn from Connor Lew, who I thought was the best center in the country in the class of 2023. He's obviously no longer a Miami guy. He flipped to Auburn primarily for academic reasons because Auburn had an aviation program that Miami didn't, and that was kind of his focus of study there. So the Hurricanes are looking, I think, for guys who specialize at the center position. They've offered someone who recently verbally committed to Harvard, Nino Francavilla. He sounds like a paisan. I think he's Italian, so I want this guy already. 6'3", 290-pound center out of what I believe is a prep school in Connecticut. Really smart dude, because I've noticed a lot of his offers are Ivy League. He's got offers from like Yale and Penn and Princeton. He does have some offers from, non-Ivy League schools as well. But he recently verbally committed to Harvard, but he's gotten now an offer from Miami. I did watch a little bit of his tape. He technique-wise looks really strong and sound. He's got a lot of power. So he looks the part to me. Nino Francavilla looks the part to me as a guy who can be an excellent center. And then, of course, when you've got all these Ivy League offers, you figure he's really intelligent as well. And intelligence, as we know, very important at the center position because there's so much responsibility that comes with playing at that spot. So, listen, I think he's going to have to ask himself, okay, I've got a pretty big Power 5 offer to play football now at Miami, but I've also got this offer to go to, arguably the most prestigious academic institution in America and one of the most prestigious in the entire world. What do I prioritize? Now, it kind of reminds me of, a little over 20 years ago of Joaquin Gonzalez. Joaquin Gonzalez, who had the opportunity to play at Harvard, but he chose Miami instead. So we will see what Nino Francavilla decides to do, but I will support his decision either way. Now, I mentioned Monday is going to be absolutely lit on Locked On Canes. Confirmed yesterday. Monday is Fall Camp Media Day, and I'm going to be there. Lock, stock, and barrel. Fall Camp Media Day for the University of Miami the day before they start fall practices. Fall practices start on Tuesday. They got Media Day on Monday. That means I'm going to be out there, guys. If it's anything like last year's Media Day where we had a blast, I'm going to be getting one-on-ones with probably 12 or more players, whatever I have time for. I'm going to be doing one-on-one interviews. I'm going to be filming them. I'm going to be posting them on our YouTube channel. I'm going to be doing an audio version wrap-up of everything we talk about with some of these players out there. So Monday's going to be one of those days where we're hitting you with episodes left and right? Sometimes we do double episode days, triple episode days. We might end up doing like 5 or 6 episodes on Monday because we're going to be absolutely loaded out there talking with players, talking with Miami coaches. Preseason media day, that's one of the few days where Miami makes position coaches available to talk to. So I'm going to be tracking down KB. I'm going to be tracking down Tim Harris Jr. and Alex Mirabal and everybody that they make available. So Miami Hurricanes Media Day, it's going to be a good one out there, folks. So keep it locked to that. I want to throw a shout out to our latest 5-star review here because we got a new one. And I should mention, if you want to subscribe to our podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Odyssey, Google, wherever you get your audio podcasts, the audio podcast is great because you can take us with us wherever you can take us with you wherever you go. Take us in the car, take us on a jog. We recently got a new 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Let me shout that out because I like to do that when we get them. From Permanent Coffin, who writes in, and I love this. Thank you so much for the 5-star review. He says, I've listened to my fair share of Locked On podcasts, and Alex Donno is the best, he says, and it ain't even close. Keep up the good work and go Canes. First of all, I thank you so much, and I'm humbled by that because I've been with the Locked On network for almost a year and a half now, and I know how excellent this network is, and I know how many great hosts there are. I listen to all the local shows. Kyle Crabb's Locked On Dolphins. He's the freaking GOAT. The Locked On Heat guys do a tremendous job. And when it comes to the college channel, I learned so much from so many of the other Locked On college hosts, especially Zach, who does the Auburn show, and my guy, air quotes, Brandon, who does the Gator show. I love those dudes. So if you're telling me that I'm your favorite on Locked On, I'm really humbled by that because I know how excellent this network is, and I know how much good stuff there is on this network. So make sure, and also you want to check out the Locked On Aggies show because I think it was yesterday or the day before, it might have been Tuesday, on Locked On Aggies, they talked about how Tyler Van Dyke could be a big threat to them when they meet Miami the second week of the season. So check out Locked On Aggies because they had a big Miami topic on their show a couple of days ago. So thank you so much for the 5-star review. It means a lot, from Permanent Coffin. And we'll talk to you guys again tomorrow with Coach Coop. Coach Coop is going to join us tomorrow on another episode of Locked On Canes. We are part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.